Tiffany Jana, Erasing Institutional Bias, How to Create Systemic Change for Organizational Inclusion. Embark on a journey to understand and dismantle the unseen biases that surround us as we explore the book summary of Erasing Institutional Bias, How to Create Systemic Change for Organizational Inclusion by Tiffany Jana. Delve into the realms of systemic bias, its origins, and consequences on individuals, organizations, and society as a whole. Gain valuable insights into identifying your own biases and the role you play in fostering them, and learn effective strategies to mobilize support for positive change. This summary arms you with the tools to make your organization more inclusive while challenging the status quo through well-orchestrated, data-driven approaches.
Combating systemic bias. Bias is present in individuals and institutions alike, creating systemic bias that gives certain groups an advantage over others in power structures. Systemic bias affects everyone, from job candidates to entire nations, and can only be fought by acknowledging its existence, recognizing past support of it, and organizing to eliminate it. Erasing systemic bias seems insurmountable to an individual, but collective effort can make change possible. Biases have a cumulative effect, presenting an even greater challenge for people facing multiple forms of discrimination. By combating systemic bias, organizations and society can improve, creating opportunities for everyone to reach their full potential. Dismantling systemic bias. Removing institutional and organizational bias requires personal responsibility and collaboration. A four-step process can help you eliminate biases from the system. First, assess your past part in contributing to systemic bias. Next, plan your approach to stopping systemic bias. Then, build support from others and create momentum for change. Use data to make an unassailable case and find colleagues to join the effort. Working together, you can remove the bias from the system and create a just society. Fighting occupational bias in hiring practices. Occupational bias affects individuals by pigeonholing them into low-paying jobs, and it disadvantages people who apply to jobs traditionally associated with another gender. This bias persists even where firms want to attract diverse candidates. To fight it, examine past practices and eliminate hidden biases. Make connections with diverse organizations and insist on diverse candidates in every hiring process. The issue of occupational bias is a prevalent problem in the workforce, particularly for women and individuals applying to jobs traditionally associated with another gender. This type of discrimination can pigeonhole people into low-paying, dead-end jobs, devaluing the work they may do at home or caring for others. Even when firms claim to seek out diverse candidates, unconscious biases often persist. To combat this problem, individuals must first examine their own role in furthering occupational bias. They can start by analyzing past recruitment practices, including job postings and sourcing candidates. Hidden biases, such as recruiters screening out individuals with Black or foreign-sounding names, must be eliminated. To attract diverse candidates, it is also essential to make connections with diverse organizations and insist on a certain number of diverse candidates in every hiring process. Developmental programs such as coaching, mentoring, and succession planning must include diverse candidates. It is crucial to reject the idea of cultural fit in the hiring process, as it often leads to a homogeneous workplace. By examining previous practices and developing a compelling, evidence-based story, individuals can recruit others to their cause and develop a movement to combat occupational bias. In conclusion, occupational bias is a complex issue that affects individuals and the workforce as a whole. By examining past practices, eliminating hidden biases, and making connections with diverse organizations, we can take steps towards building a more inclusive and diverse workforce. Confronting gender and racial bias in the workplace. Despite laws forbidding gender bias, it continues to exist in subtle ways in most organizations today. Women are paid less, promoted less, and suffer more workplace harassment than men. The #MeToo movement has made progress against overt sexual harassment and assault in the workplace, but a more subtle, benevolent sexism still exists in which women are patronized, undermining their confidence and credibility. Similarly, racism still pervades American society, perpetuated by individuals believing it is only the responsibility of others to change. Victims of racism encounter microaggressions, both unintentional and intentional, on a constant basis. To combat these biases, individuals must first determine what needs to be changed and collect data to analyze the situation. Next, they need to craft a better approach or solution, find allies, take action, set goals, and track progress. Furthermore, achieving racial diversity is not enough, people must feel included and a sense of belonging. Listening sessions and focus groups can be used to complement data from surveys to help executives fully understand how people experienced the organization. By following these steps and taking responsibility for addressing systemic biases, individuals can become allies for change in the workplace and beyond. Serving all customers. Customers can be biased based on race and social status. Non-profit organizations may focus on white donors and car salespeople may judge based on clothes. Firms that build products aimed at the majority ignore untargeted demographics, resulting in lost sales. However, the most successful films are those with diverse casts. It is essential to ask yourself whether you know your customers and their demographics. Firms can serve all their customer base if they focus on identifying and serving everyone. Retribution Bias in the U.S. The book highlights the detrimental effects of retribution bias on minorities, especially Black Americans, in the U.S. criminal justice system. The bias, fueled by xenophobia and racism, perpetuates centuries of injustice, including the disproportionate incarceration rates of people of color. The book calls for the combat of retribution bias, just like any other form of bias, by building awareness, amassing allies, gathering data, determining the root causes, and taking actions. The U.S. criminal justice system has long been plagued by a unique American need to punish people, and then punish them again. This retribution bias, favoring punishment, dates back to slavery, Jim Crow laws, and lopsided drug laws. It extends to new immigrants and has perpetuated centuries of injustice, including the high rates of incarceration of minorities and the discriminations they face in the criminal justice system and beyond. Retribution bias is a socially held and institutionally enacted bias that harms minorities more than others, as people of color account for an overwhelming 67% of the U.S. prison population, while only constituting 37% of the population overall. However, it also affects anyone caught up in the criminal justice system, including their families, and firms that discriminate against ex-cons and undocumented immigrants. To combat retribution bias, the book suggests treating it like any other form of bias. Alex Mejias, for instance, built an internal case for action within his small consulting firm to fight against rampant police killings of men of color. He crafted a statement of his concerns and proposed actions, circulated it, built awareness, and amassed allies. With his team, he formed businesses for Black lives and brought in neighboring companies to join. They gathered data, zeroed in on root causes, determined a course of action, and measured their progress. In conclusion, retribution bias, fueled by xenophobia and racism, harms minorities more than anyone else and perpetuates centuries of injustice. The book calls for action to combat this bias by building awareness, amassing allies, gathering data, determining root causes, and taking actions, just like any other form of bias.
As we conclude our exploration of erasing institutional bias, we're left with a powerful sense of responsibility and motivation to challenge the existing power structures and biases that plague our world. By acknowledging these biases and taking actionable steps to address them, we can gradually dismantle the invisible barriers that hinder progress and inclusion. Hold yourself and your organization accountable by continuously evaluating past actions, strategizing for improved outcomes, rallying collective support, and measuring progress towards more equitable and diverse environments. With dedication and unyielding commitment, the possibility of an inclusive future lies within our grasp, and it all starts with each one of us.